right, let's scout some of those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just a reminder, though, we have a Cowboys ticket giveaway in the 10 a.m. hour. That's this hour. And the noon o'clock hour today. So you want your opportunity to win a pair of Dallas Cowboys tickets. We will have it for you. All right. Is Mike Evans the first person that you think about when it comes to Tampa Bay? I know Baker Mayfield has obviously played significantly better. Okay.
And that's it goes to it every time. It is Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
But I should think of Mike Evans he's the best player on the field for them every year. But the first person I think of is Baker Mayfield right now. And whenever it wasn't Baker, it was Jameis or whoever else at the time. And then it was Mike Evans because Mike Evans doesn't get appreciated enough. Do we not see him on enough Monday night and Thursday night and Sunday night football games?
And I think maybe his team hasn't been good.
They won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady.
I know, but the season before that, they were trash. And then the season after that, they made the playoffs and Tom Brady was too scared to throw the ball and everything. But so I'm saying, I don't think consistently enough they've been good enough.
Yeah.
Not him.
And that's the thing. No, he's been consistently amazing. But he's not the first person I think of. Now, the first person I need to stop is definitely I go out there and try to stop him first. And then we'll figure out how to limit what Baker's doing.
Now, this is a Tampa Bay team that has absolutely been on a roll. They were 4-6, so they were kind of on the brink of the season getting away from them. Now, I realize the division they play in, the Falcons, who just switched quarterbacks, faltering, has a lot to do with this as well. But they've broken off 4 straight wins. And it was that last game that I think really caught people's attention. Because before that, who did you beat? The Giants, the Panthers in overtime, and Las Vegas. So literally 3 of the worst. Maybe you think they're the 3 worst. Maybe you think they're 3 of the 5 worst teams in football. And so those are the teams they were beating. But then they played the Chargers, and they beat the crap out of them on the road. I know the Chargers defense has had some slippage the last couple of weeks, but, man, they smashed them. So now you're playing a Tampa Bay team that's won 4 straight, dominated on both sides of the ball against the Chargers. This is and that's leading their division and has a very clear path to the playoffs. This is a focused Buccaneers team coming in.
There are a lot of cues on that defensive side of the ball right now, questionables. And that's one of the factors there. But Cade Otton and Sterling Shepard have been productive, and I'm like, what? Sterling Shepard's still in the league? Was my first thought.
I definitely thought you made a mistake when you said that.
When I saw it, I was like, is there another Shepard that I didn't know about? And it's him, and he's a target for Baker. So their defensive side of the ball, I'm wondering how tough they're going to be. I've always looked at them as they always have a good, tough defensive line.
Yep.
Their linebackers are going to be pretty good and fast and can follow. And you're going to have to find ways to beat them in the cracks of the game.
So looking at that defense, Levante David. So this last week, 12 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. He has 5.5 sacks on the season. But the point is, he's getting to the quarterback, he's making tackles, and he's agitating the play. Like whether you want to focus on pressures, quarterback hits, tackles in general, Levante David is making an impact. And then you see that across the entire defense. While I'll admit, I have not been super focused in on Tampa Bay since they had their bye, which I came at a perfect time for them because they had lost 4 straight. Now, they were close games. They went to overtime with Kansas City. If you remember, we were all like, you didn't go for 2 there? Okay. And you lost really close games against Atlanta, San Francisco. Then you get to the bye. So, all right, let's reset. Take a minute. They've won the 4 straight since then. And defensively, they have been phenomenal. Since their bye week, Tampa Bay is giving up 15 points per game in the last 4 weeks. That's the fewest in the NFL. You look at the money downs. Last week against the Chargers were 0 for 6 on 3rd down and 0 for 2 on 4th down. So 3rd and 4th down, they kept the Chargers nothing. 0 for 8. So when the defense needed to get off the field, they got off the field, which it doesn't surprise me then that their points per game allowed is so low.
Go ahead.
Well, this is their toughest game remaining.
Yeah, their schedule's
season.
a walk from here, right?
It's obviously the Sunday night game here against the Cowboys. Then they have 2 home games, the Panthers and the Saints, to finish the year. So they have a good chance of going into the playoffs on a 7-game winning streak.
And if that's the case, they'll be on a 7-game winning streak. They'll have won their division. Their quarterback is playing well. I know in QBR he's still kind of stuck in the middle, but their quarterback is playing well. Okay, let me ask you this then. A Tampa Bay team that goes into the playoffs in a 7-game winning streak, when perhaps you think 6 of the 7 opponents, if you like the Chargers, which I think that's a quality
Probably
win.
they're a playoff team.
Yeah, with 6 of the 7 wins coming against teams with losing records, teams that are not in the playoffs, how serious do you look at them in the playoffs? Because at that point,
I won't.
Okay.
Even though it will build up their team's confidence that they have gone 2 months without losing a game. So their belief in themselves will be tremendous.
And post-bye. So you could make the argument that, like, hey, we got our time off. We fixed it.
But they will either play Detroit, Minnesota, or Green Bay in the first round. I ask you guys this. Do you guys believe Tampa will beat one of those 3 teams in the playoffs? Because that will be their first round opponent. We don't know which one.
Yeah.
But they will play either Detroit if they were to falter and fall into a wild card spot, or Minnesota or Green Bay. Because they won't be the 2 seed, because the 2 seed will either be Philadelphia or the winner of the North.
Yeah, so they'll be the 3rd or the 4th seed, which either way will match them up with one of those 2 teams. I don't. The one team I wonder about if they got to draw Washington in the first round, I kind of wonder about that. But you would need Green Bay to really fall off, and you need Washington to finish strong. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden, aren't you like, well, Washington looks really good going into the playoffs? So my prediction right now would be they're still primed to lose in the wild card round of the playoffs. But if you're Tampa Bay, you're probably not considering such things right now. And instead of just saying, hey, we have an easy schedule down the stretch. We've won 4 straight. We can clearly go take this division.
Do they look at the Cowboys as part of the easy schedule?
I think probably, just because, and I'll go back to this, there's 16 teams in the NFC. In the playoff seedings right now, the Cowboys are 12th.
So if for the last 3 years, leading into this season, the Cowboys were in that 3rd tier of we're good, but we're at the top of the 3rd tier. So we're almost 2nd tier, maybe even 2nd tier. They're good.
Yeah.
And this year they're at the bottom. They're not the worst. It feels that way, but they're not the worst, but they're still in that good, but not the worst.
See, I don't know if I agree with that. I think they might be the best of the worst. You know what I'm saying? So which is probably not that big of a difference.
A little bit lower.
If you're the worst of the middle or the best of the worst, that's probably not that much of a difference. But to Mike's point just a second ago, I do think Tampa Bay is going to be really keyed in on this, because this is probably the toughest game they have left, especially because their other 2 games are at home.
Yeah, and you could see where maybe their last game is a meaningless game. They sit out. They've won the division. I don't know how much they'll care about the 3 versus 4 seed. You have the home game. Most likely, if you win, you're going to go on the road and play the 1 seed, which will have a bye, or the 2 seed, which most likely will win their game. I guess you can't assume anything, but it'll just be for them. They could be like, let's sit out this week, make sure we're completely healthy and ready to go next week for the wild card round.
And I did see somebody bring up from the 214, I hear you. I don't know how relevant I think that game is anymore. Tampa Bay did beat the Lions in week 2. By the time you play again, that will have been 4 months ago. So, I hear you, and that's a great talking point in the room. But I also think if you got both coaches on the line, they would be like, that game is irrelevant. What happened?
The only relevance is you have it on film.
That's true.
So as you're going over how do we stop this or do that, you at least have, we specifically went up against this player. Now, they went up against an Aiden Hutchinson-led defense.
That's true.
They probably had a totally different game plan when Aiden Hutchinson's on the field.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely fair. And for the person who is asking about the run defense, again,
they're 11th in rushing yards given up per game at 109.2.
And what happened in their last game? They held the Chargers to a season-low 32 yards rushing. So I know clearly Rico, especially behind the pick-a-player offensive line, has been really good. But
this is the best defensive line you've seen in that stretch.
And the Bucs are coming off their best, probably defensive performance of the season, or certainly one of their best, and their best rushing defense performance of the entire season. So
this will be the best one that they've seen so far.
I'm not saying
as Rico's gotten ramped up,
and I'm not saying that means you don't start Rico. I'm just saying the trend is not in your favor.
Tampa's getting no attention as you're talking about. Like, look, we haven't watched a lot of them. We see their highlights. We see their results. Sunday Night Football, they're going to play the Dallas Cowboys. I get Dallas is not a good team. But if they win this game by 10 or more points, how much will Tampa, like I'm just wondering if you're the owner of the team, like this is a huge game because we get to play the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football going into the holidays. We win this game now, First Take, Get Up, whatever shows that are on television in the morning, they're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If we lose this game, they're not going to be really talking about it, so they'll be talking about the Dallas Cowboys. So they're like, I just wonder from an owner standpoint, when you're not the Dallas Cowboys, on how big of a game it is when you get Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys to get your name in the headlines.
I do think it's a big deal, and I think you hear that all the time. It's like the Cowboys at least think they get every team's best shot. So I think when you factor that in, when you factor in the next 2 weeks from here, I think all of that absolutely comes into play. But you're going up against a Tampa team that, like, I'm not going to lie, I still don't think is that great. But
they always play too deep. I know that.
Tampa 2, I like it.
Do they still, though?
They have to.
Because it's Tampa's in the name.
Yeah. But obviously, I don't think the Cowboys are that great either.
Yeah.
So.